So, as we all know, Jordan's already talked about the Power Rangers. Saban created the Power Rangers by taking the footage from Sentai and turning it into Power Rangers.
Power Rangers.
Well, Saban made 3 other attempts at this. He did a show called Masked Rider, VR Troopers, and Big Bad Beetleborgs. I will be talking about 2 of them today. The first of which being VR Troopers.
Countdown control. 4, 3, 2, 1. We are virtual reality. Troopers 3. Virtual reality. Troopers 3. Virtual reality. Troopers 3. 4, 3, 2, 1. We are VR. We are VR. Troopers 3.
Hit the theme song. Part of it anyway. So VR Troopers, Jordan. VR Troopers went through a lot of creative a lot of different changes and stuff. But it is the combination of use of footage of 3 shows, like I mentioned. Space Sheriff Scheider, a Dimensional Warrior Spielbahn, and Super Android Meteldar. For the first season, it's Meteldar and the Dimensional War Spielbahn, and then the second season, that's when they introduced the Shadar. And they fight an evil bad guy called Grimlord, and he's an evil businessman. He becomes Grimlord, and he goes to the virtual dimension where he has armies of bad guys, and they all turn into VR troopers, and they fight. And because this is using footage from 2 different shows, the 3 of them never fight together. Ever.
Ever.
When they're in their like VR trooper forms, they never work together because 2 of them are from a different show. And remember how I said earlier that the dimensional hero, he really does more of the killing because he's the main guy of that show. She's really more his assistant. So she, in the American version, never gets to kill a bad guy. They do. And so the show constantly goes out of its way to contrive reasons for them to split up. Because in the action footage, they're never together because it's 2 different shows.
That makes sense. I mean, it's dumb, but it makes sense.
And so the interesting bit about this show, and the frustrating bit about this, and this carries over to Big Bad Beetleborgs, is Saban, like, they could have made this sustainable, but they insisted on mashing 2 different shows together. Like the Space Sheriff and the Dimensional Hero show is literally a monster shows up, causes a problem, they fight the monster leaves. It's 1,000 episodes of Power Rangers. Like, the thing of when you watch enough Power Rangers, enough of those shows, it, like you say, them fighting the monsters starts to become the least interesting bit about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you see it 1,000 times back to back to back to back, you just sort of realize it's the same 3 shots over and over.
Right.
Again.
It's like the characters are the most interesting part. Like, you're right. You're absolutely right about that. And so,
if you don't like the characters, you're really not going to get into the show.
Right. So you can take 1 season of this show and just do that. Introduce side characters, utilize the footage from one of these shows, right? And make it about... Yeah. And so this show, interestingly enough, originally was a Jason David Frank vehicle.
Must become Cybertron. How? Just before he disappeared, your father showed me the secret of the Cyber Crystal. The source of Cybertron's power.
Tell me what to do, Sensei.
Gaze into the crystal and let your mind merge with the cyber-technic power of Cybertron. Concentrate, Adam. Focus your mind, and the power will be yours.
Oh,
So initially, initially he was gonna play. One of the main characters is a character named. Hold on, what's the character's name? Brad Hawkins. Ryan Steele. Is a character named Ryan Steele. And you remember when on Power Rangers, Tommy dies, right? His character gets killed off, the Green Ranger.
yeah. Well, I remember him losing his powers. I don't remember him dying.
Well, they write it off. He gives the power. He gives what's left of the powers to the Red Ranger. That's when the Red Ranger has the shield, and he wasn't going to come back. And then that character was so popular.
Again, not so much that he died, but anyway.
the Green Ranger dies in the Japanese version, but in
the American.
version. The character left is the point. He left, and he wasn't going to come back. But the character was so popular that they brought him back as the White Ranger. Well, initially, Saban liked Jason David Frank so much, they were going to give him a show called, I believe it was called Cyclonus, is what it was called. Hold on.
That's a stupid name.
Cybertron, that's what it was called. Initially it was going to be called Cycon, and then they were going to call it Cybertron. And then, initially in the pilot skip for Cycon, Adam Steele was going to merge with the cyborg instead of transforming into it. And the bad guy footage is taken from the robot show, the Metal that show. And in that show, the bad guy is a Japanese businessman who transforms into this guy and uses it. And the thing about the robot show, about Metal Hero generally, is there's a lot of different characteristics that carry on from show to show. So the difference between, like, say, one of the things that is consistent is there's a main group of bad guys, but there's subgroups in each of these bad guys. So, like, there's in Metal Dar, there's like a robot army, and then there's like a biological army, and then there's like a magic army, and they are each sub-generals of the main bad guys. So it kind of prevents them from getting boring, because in one episode they're fighting robot guys, and the next episode they're fighting like evil alien guys, and they're all kind of like that. And so initially it was going to be a thing where he merged with him, and they changed it. They rewrote it to a pilot called Cybertron, and that was the one that was going to have Jason David Frank, and he was going to be Adam Steele, and it was just going to be based on the one show. And the reason why this show ultimately got canceled was because they say, I don't believe them, but they say that they ran out of footage, and that's why it ran out. But there's 19 of these shows. There's enough footage you could have continued this into and done the other ones where the guy's a robot, and make it so it's like Power Rangers and you change the costumes each season. Like, you absolutely could have, like, continued on.
But clearly it wasn't gaining enough traction because Power Rangers was just too popular.
That's what I'm saying though, is as a sub thing, the way they approach this is the reason they say they canceled it was not because of lack of popularity. In fact, at a point, Big Bad Beetleborgs, we'll get there and we'll get to Big Bad Beetleborgs, was more popular than Power Rangers. They say that the only reason why this show ended was because they ran out of footage. And
Press X to doubt.
But I doubt, because there is enough. But to be fair, a lot of this footage is old, and that was another problem with this show, is the footage that they were using was 10 years old. And so it does. And when they switch over, you can absolutely tell when it switches to the Japanese footage, because it looks way older, and that is a problem. But I'm just saying, if they could have utilized the footage for each of these individual shows better, I guess. But they really wanted to. The goal of these shows is to replicate the team aspect of it, instead of being like, well, no, you don't have to do a team. You can do a team aspect of it, but one of the guys can transform, and you can have a cast of characters that surround him. Like Kamen Rider works like that, right? Like, often one of the guys is the guy who transforms, maybe two, and the cast of the characters that surround him support that, and you still have that team dynamic.
But in North America, Justin, it's all about selling toys and merchandising, and having a team of 5 people that can turn into different colors and different weapons sells way more toys than one guy who transforms.
In the second season,
quite frankly, that's why these didn't do as well in North America, is because of capitalism.
Oh yeah. It's the same reason why I'm surprised Ultraman has never caught on. Because I'm like, so many of these elements would be so easy to just transfer into a power. And to be fair, they've tried multiple times with Kamen Rider. Like I say, they had the Masked Hero series, but then they tried again with a series called Kamen Rider Dragon Knight. And I couldn't get into that show because in order to transform, they said Kamen Rider. And it drove me crazy. You've watched enough of this to know that probably would bother you too. Like, no, just say Henshin.
Or transform.
Or transform. But no, Henshin sounds sufficiently, like, foreign sounding. Like, you know, like a secret code word. Like, Kamen Rider, it's like if the Power Rangers said Power Rangers to turn into the Power Rangers. That's dumb.
More phenomenal.
I meant to. With Beetleborgs, I skipped ahead a bit. I wanted to skip to season 2 of this because he does change in season 2. Ryan, the main character, he changes to being the shader, so he's blue. The blue
Ryan.
Guy.
Ryan.
Yeah, he changes his outfit. But yeah, the action sequences are disconnected. They don't look good, and like it's one of those things that's funny because obviously you don't notice this stuff when you're a kid. But the thing I remember thinking about this when I was a kid was that the bad guy was scary.
Uh-huh.
The sequence of him turning into the bad guy, I remember being like, that was scary, thinking that was scary.
Me back to my virtual reality.
Virtual warriors, assemble! Decimator! Here, master!
But otherwise, I don't remember thinking much of this. Do you remember this?
No, not even a little bit.
You don't remember VR Troopers? If I showed it,
no.
Do you think if I showed it to you, you would?
You've showed me clips of it before. No, I have no memory of it.
No, you have no memory of it. Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, that's VR Troopers. That's the first half of Saban's attempts at non-Power Rangers tokusatsu. Stay tuned for Beetleborgs coming when you're watching the YouTube video now. Okay, in order to fully understand why this show sucks so badly, and don't come at me. We're talking about Big Bad Beetleborgs, by the way. Big Bad
Beetleborgs.
Jordan, do you remember Big Bad Beetleborgs?
No.
No?
I don't remember any of them other than Power Rangers, Justin. I had 15 seasons of Power Rangers jammed into my brain. Do you think anything else was going to stay in there?
I mean, what about Superhuman Samurai Squad, Cyber Squad? With Matthew Lawrence. We talked about it previously.
You've talked about it. That's the only reason I know about it.
Okay, so Big Bad Beetleborgs is Saban's other attempt at adapting a tokusatsu show. It is adapting Jokan B-Fighter, Heavy Shell B-Fighter, which we will be talking about later in the show. And in order to fully understand and appreciate why this show sucks so bad, you will not fully understand or appreciate it as I didn't until we talk about that show, or until I had watched it. But I am going to do my best to preemptively explain to you why this show upset me. Big Bad Beetleborgs. The premise of which can be very handily explained by the opening theme song, which I would play here.
Three typical average kids inside a haunted mansion. Just by chance, freed a ghost who made them Beetleborgs. Big bad Beetleborgs. Big bad Beetleborgs. Hey, look now, they're superheroes armed with superpowers. Taken from a comic strip, and now they're Beetleborgs. Big bad Beetleborgs.
Now, for Jordan's benefit, while the audience hears what the theme song is about, because I'll probably cut this bit out, it's basically it's three kids are convinced to stay in a haunted mansion by their snotty rich friends overnight. You know, one of those, if you're real brave, you'll stay in the haunted mansion. And it turns out
don't be a bitch. If you don't be a bitch, then we'll be friends forever.
And the turns out the mansion is haunted by a bunch of Universal style monsters. So like there's a vampire, there's a werewolf.
That's the one you sent me. That's the one you sent me a clip of.
Yes, there's a Frankenstein. I feel like there's one more, and then they free a genie from a pipe organ, and that genie looks and sounds exactly like Jay Leno. They say it's supposed to be Elvis. I don't know how that's possible. It's definitely Jay Leno.
That sounds awful.
And because they released this genie, they get a wish. And they wish to be their comic book heroes, the Big Bad Beetleborgs, which is the three insect-based armors. One is red, one is blue, one is green. And by making them into Beetleborgs, the genie inadvertently releases the bad guys from the comic book into the real world. And
of course he does.
Episodes break down as... I mean, you would think that the Big Bad Beetleborgs are to fight the bad guys, right? Monster of the Week shows up, they fight it. No more monster.
I would assume so.
You would assume wrong! It's not what the show's about. The show is about interstitial, random, long, and annoying sequences of the Universal monsters bumbling around their mansion and getting into stupid, annoying, and irrelevant shenanigans that have nothing to do with the monster that they're fighting. Or it's the main guys, like, bumbling around town, causing general mischief. And
SpaghettiOs.
And I will say that the main bad guy, who is based off of the main bad guy from the original Fighter, is kind of funny. He's got kind of a funny voice, and he says a lot of funny jokes. The one of them is I forget what the voice actor is, but it's Davis, not Davis. It's Demi Vimon. The voice is just Demi Vimon.
Demi Vimon. Oh, hey.
There's usually like a problem. And it has nothing to do with the monster, and then a monster shows up at the end, and then they fight a monster. And it's awful, and it's terrible, and, like, I skipped through most of it because I wanted to get... There's eventually a series of episodes where their version of the evil Green Ranger shows up, and it's a 6-parter, and a new Ranger or new Beetleborg has to show up to beat him, and every time they fight... It cuts away from them fighting to the Universal monsters bumbling over each other. And there's no real drama or like stakes in any of the actual violence or in any of the actual action, because all of the Beetleborgs are like children, but like not like they're not like the Power Rangers where they're like supposed to be teenagers but they're young adults. No, they're like 8-year-olds. Like 8 to 10-year-olds. So, like, when they get depowered and they're fighting the bad guy, obviously it's a show for 7-year-olds. The bad guy's not going to attack an 8-year-old. So, like, he just growls at them and says, "I'll get you next time," and leaves for no reason without killing them.
I mean, yeah, but would you... Yeah. You can't just walk up and, like, snap the 8-year-old's neck, Justin.
No, but, like...
Even in Japan, I feel like that wouldn't fly past the censors.
Okay. Well, no, when we talk about Beef Fighter, that's funny you say that. But, and so because a lot of the footage for Beef Fighter, and again, we're going to talk about it, is, really quite violent, they can't show it or use it. And so...
Wait, the show's called Bee Fighter?
Yes, and
is one of the guys
Fighter.
Is one of the guys dressed as a bee?
No, a bee isn't beetle.
Real missed opportunity.
No,
it's called Bee.
B stands for beetle. They're Beetle Fighter because they're all based on beetles.
Then they should have called them Beetle Fighters, not Bee Fighters.
They're all called Beetle Fighters, but B is short for beetle. It's a abbreviation.
No,
anyway.
B means bee. They should be bees.
But anyway, where's it going? Oh yeah, so all of the footage, you can't see any of it because every time something violent happens, like Batman 1969 goes bang, flash, crash. So you don't actually see any of it because it's all covered up. And so that's where I'm like, when they say the shows got canceled. Oh, I should also say, there's 2 seasons of this show. Just like there's 2 seasons of Bee Fighter. There's a sequel to Bee Fighter, which we're also going to talk about because I watched a bit of it, called Bee Fighter Kabuto. And so at the end of the first season, they switched suits and they switched to the Bee Fighter Kabuto suits, which is also really, really violent. I was going to watch some of that, but I didn't. I ran out of time. And so they said that this show ended because they ran out of footage. But I refuse to believe that because they barely use any of the footage. Most of the footage, there's at best like 5 minutes of footage per episode from the original show, and the rest.
But you said that it was all super violent.
Well, yeah. The footage they do use is the action sequences, which they cover up with the flash, the bang, crash, hit. Like the Batman, those kind of things. They barely use any of it. Otherwise, the only time you see the suits, they're with the Universal monster characters, and it's original footage that they've shot. Like there's one in the 6-parter with the evil. I can't remember what they call it, Negaborg or whatever. He fights a Lightborg, which is one of the characters from Beefighter who doesn't fight. Like he never fights. He's never in a fight sequence, not once. He's a salesman. Like he isn't in it. So he fights the evil version of the Beetleborgs in what is new footage. So you had all these suits and you were shooting original footage anyway. Why did you not just shoot original footage? So much of this show is original footage. I don't like using the phrase bastardization, but it really is a absolute insult to Beefighter. If I were a fan of Beefighter and I was like, ooh, I'm going to watch Big Bad Beetleborgs, I would be horrified because the show is bad. It's not a good adaptation, and it's frustrating because when you're watching Beefighter, just like when I watch Kamen Rider, I'm like, there is a way you could have adapted this the way it already was. The original was corny enough that this could be translated into American, in a way that is actually good and doesn't, it's just like, when you watch Sentai, when I watch Sentai, like Jew Ranger, I'm like, yeah, I get why they thought they could make this into a show for kids. I don't understand how you watched Beefighter or Spellbound or any of those Metal Hero shows and went, I could make this into a show for 5-year-olds because that's what this is. This is as much as I would characterize Power Rangers as a show for 8-year-olds, this is a show for 6-year-olds. It's most of it is boring, and the action hides all the good shit.
I understand. Are you going to finish this one?
God, no. Oh yeah, that's what I was. That's what else was, because I skipped through most of this because I wanted to read to you some of the fucking plot synopsises. Because I was like, is this worth watching? Right? I was like, is this worth watching? And so I pulled up the episodes to find out when the evil character shows up to watch that. And this is just a selection, okay? So we're gonna go to this is Ghouls Just Want to Have Fun. A magnivore spy known as Monsterella is sent to Hillhurst to go undercover as a maid. It's a big bad world. Joe is turned into a Mr. Hyde-like monster by a magnivore criminal. This is the second. Oh, this is the second season. No, this is for season 1. Drew and Joe's cousin Oliver shows up in town and is kidnapped. 2 bank robbers attempt to hide in Hillhurst. Oh yeah, Hillhurst is the name of the mansion, by the way. 2 bank robbers attempt to hide in Hillhurst, but Flabber gives them a taste of their own justice. All of this sounds bad, Jordan. It all sounds bad.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like one that I'd be
no
super psyched.
And it's I like the original, the thing about VR Troopers. And then we'll get to Beefighter, but just to wrap up Saban's failed attempts at making Power Ranger stuff, VR Troopers is at least a little more interesting because it's they're of the rough relative age to the Power Rangers, so it kind of feels Power Ranger-esque, and it is at least in spirit similar to the Space Sheriff show and the show that it's based on. It's at least vaguely similar. This is nothing like Beefighter. This is nothing like Beefighter. And Beefighter, if we're gonna get into Beefighter, it's not a perfect show. But my God, when I was watching Beefighter, all I could think was, how did this become Big Bad Beetleborgs? What I would love to be in the creative writing room to see how this happened. It is a travesty.
The connection of events which caused it to happen.
How or even the editing process to figure out how they went from Yeah, we're gonna. Yeah. We'll get again. We're gonna talk about Beef Fighter. That's it. That's all I can say. That's all the energy I can spare. Hey everybody, it's Endcard Justin here again. Let me know down in the comments, have you seen VR Troopers or Big Bad Beetleborgs? Did you grow up with those shows like I did? And let me tell you, you should go watch the original Metal Hero shows. They're way better. They're way better than this. This was crap. Big Bad Beetleborgs was bad. But anyway, if you want to see the full episode that this video is from, you can click the box on the left. That's going to take you to our Tokusatsu episode. We're talking about all kinds of Metal Hero and Kamen Rider and Super Sentai kind of stuff. You can click that there. Or you can click the box on the right, and that's going to take you to a random video that YouTube thinks you're going to enjoy. Otherwise, hit subscribe if you haven't already. Leave us a like if you could. And we'll see you all in the next video. Have a good day, everybody.